past 6 months have been some of the hardest of the war for Ukraine. A failed counteroffensive, shortages of munitions and manpower, and increasing Russian assaults. But Kyiv hasn't folded. It's inflicted huge casualties on Vladimir Putin's military. Some estimates say 180,000 Russian troops have been killed or injured for the gain of just 510 square kilometres. So what factors will influence the trajectory of this war as we go towards 2025? Mick is a former Major General in the Australian Army and has written a book looking at the strategies at play in Ukraine.
It really is this death by 1,000 cuts because the Ukrainians are having to defend against dozens and dozens and dozens of individual attacks across hundreds of kilometres of the front line every day. And that does slowly but surely wear down a military and a nation.
The General told me he believes there are 4 key factors that will shape the conflict over the coming months and years, starting with Europe's ability to step up its supplies of weapons and ammunition.
Europe does finally appear to have woken up. It's taken a while. It said it woke up 2 years ago, but it's actually starting to do things that demonstrate it has woken up with increased defence spending. More countries are meeting the 2% of GDP. More will probably exceed that within the next couple of years, potentially. And you're seeing more partnerships, industry partnerships with Ukraine and other countries to increase defence output. So, I think that could have a fairly significant impact on Ukraine's capacity to defend itself and beat the Russians.
A second major influence will be how Kyiv views this long war and what it deems an acceptable end.
Ultimately, it will be about, the mechanism by which they can both win the war and win the peace. It's very difficult. If it was easy, we'd all be doing it and there'd be a clear pathway forward, but it's extraordinarily difficult. And, I think it's something that the president, his military, his economic, his diplomatic, his cyber, and all his advisors will be working on to produce and work with NATO, the United States, and other strong supporters in Europe like the United Kingdom to get right over the course of this year.
A third factor, says General Ryan, will be events in other parts of the world and how far they distract political attention, money and the media from what's happening in Ukraine.
Once Hamas attacked Israel and then Israel went into Gaza, that drew away not just a lot of political attention, it drew away the attention of diplomats and strategic decision makers and planners. It drew away resources, and it certainly drew away the attention of the media. For example, CNN deployed almost all its teams from Ukraine to Israel, and that shapes public opinion.
President Putin and I have been discussing various things.
Finally, there's the matter of November's presidential election and what the return of Donald Trump could mean for Ukraine.
If Donald Trump does win the US election, there's been an assumption in many communities that, he'll seek to do a deal with Putin and that, he's amenable to something like that. Well, that could be the case, but it could well be that, Putin doesn't play ball or doesn't play ball in a way that Trump thinks is advantageous to Trump's view of the world, and Trump might decide, well, actually, maybe we need to double down and smash this guy. I think that's within the realms of possibility. It might be low probability, but I don't think we should just assume that Trump is going to roll over and let Putin scratch his belly, as attractive as that metaphor might be for some people.
The General believes Russia will continue its war of attrition in Ukraine. To counter it, Kyiv will have to continue adapting and developing new strategic methods, at the same time as destroying as much of Russia's war machine as it can. That, says General Ryan, may one day convince Vladimir Putin that his Ukrainian gamble will never pay off. Simon Newton, Forces News. Thanks for watching. For more from Forces News, like and subscribe to our channel.